What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a 2020 GT500 in. Gonna get some upgrades and some tuning. So probably the first ones I've ran into in this area. Actually, it was brought in from a little ways out. But one of the first ones I've seen around here, the first one I've actually driven before. So first of all, we're gonna take a look over it, and then we'll go into details about the mods. I like the looks of them. You see how aggressive they look with the, I like how the bumper is. I've actually seen a couple people have the S550 bumper kit that looks kind of like that, but of course they got the hood pins and everything. Most of you know all about the GT500, you've seen it. So we'll take a look at the inside, under the hood, just show you the basics, and then we'll take it for a drive. I'm a big fan of the seats as well. The Recaro seats are comfortable, ride good. The first thing I noticed about when I drove it a little bit is the dual clutch transmission. Previously, me coming from a Nissan GTR, the R35, it kind of reminded me of it, but it's got a smoother transition into the first gears. When you first start taking off, you notice that it feels like something's slipping a little bit. It's just not fully engaging into the first gear. And first, it caught me off guard to start with, and then I remembered, obviously, these are a dual clutch. So let's take a look under the hood. Now this one here, this blower is actually coming off. We ended up getting this one ported. So the blowers don't get taken off, shipped off. Got a bigger 105mm throttle body going on it, the 1050X injectors. Got a smaller pulley going on it. The Whipple heat exchanger is going up front. A couple other small mods like a 170 thermostat, stuff like that. And obviously I'll go into detail when I start pulling that apart. So for now, let's go take it for a drive. Big fan of the active exhaust as well, which of course my cars aren't premium cars, so I don't have it. Let's see if I can remember how to get to it. Just switch like normal. You can hear the difference too. If you go, we'll go into the normal or the quiet mode. Normal. And then the loudest one. Okay, still different going in drive. You got the circle. And when I first engage the clutch or disengage the brake, you notice how you can kind of rev it up and it doesn't really grab right away. But you start rolling out, then you'll feel the first gear engage, and it basically feels like a manual fully engaged. The handling reminds me a lot of the GT350s I've driven. It handles a lot like them, but the performance-wise, obviously, is just a lot faster. And I noticed they have a lot of low end as well. Even me coming from Whippled and supercharged Coyotes, this one actually feels like it has a little more low end. Unlike the GT350, where you notice they like low end and they make it up top. I'm going to do a quick pull or so, just so we kind of have something to compare to after we get all the work done. We'll try about a 40 roll and see if it'll hook up. That is impressive for being factory. And I've driven the GT500s as well, and it is a whole nother car with that dual clutch transmission. You can see most of the parts here. I've got them out. We've got the Whipple tensioner. And I got a 105mm throttle body. Should be a good fit for the ported blower. Got our N-gauge programmer, which I'll load the tune on. So like here we've got a thermostat. We've got the pulley removal tool. See it right there. Looks like we got 1050X injectors, one of the best injectors out there. Some LTR7IX NGK plugs. Looks like we've also got a pulley right here. And this is Lethal's, Lethal's feel rail kits. I actually hadn't known he had this to start with, but I'd say he's getting new feel rails and everything. So I'm gonna take a look at those. So they got obviously most of the fittings with, as far as I know. They've got a green belt. And it's also got a H pipe over here that's getting put in, and the free flowing exhaust right here. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead, get this blower here pulled off, and I've got to get it shipped off to get it ported. And then we can go ahead and start installing most of the other parts while we're waiting for that to come back. You can see I've got the blower all taken off. It's actually a little heavier than you might think, but that's all off there. Got it sitting over here, and got the throttle body taken off. Little bypass valve controller, everything there. One thing I find that's pretty cool on the GT500 blower is they have got a one-way clutch. For instance, if you're, say you're revving up and you shift and the RPMs drop real fast, the rotor speed does not have to drop with it. So for instance, if I spin this thing backwards, you'll notice how it stops immediately and comes back. If I'm going forward, as if I were revving up and it would, for instance, do a shift where the RPM drops rapidly, you'll notice that it can actually clutch that way where it doesn't force the rotors to drop down with it. So if you watch, I'll spin it. I can actually spin this backwards and the rotor does not even go backwards. Pretty cool how they did that. I think it's actually a great idea. Most of you already know this 5.2 is actually a port injection only. What I do find a little strange is they actually have bored out or milled that out for direct injection. It's just not finished. I'm not sure why they did that or what was done. It's crazy to see that though. Each one you can see has been bored there for the direct injection, but it's not there. Really curious why they did that, or if anybody has any information on that. I'm really curious what the reasoning is for that. I've got the pulley removal tool as well, which you can see right here. Got the pulley, so I've got to pull the crank snout out and mount it in that tool, and then obviously take that cap off to replace the pulley. I'm probably going to pull the intercooler out from inside before I ship it off. It'll just be less weight, and I've got to change it anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this lid off, lift it off, and take that intercooler out. Here you can see the two intercoolers. You got the factory one right here, the Ford one. Got all the bolts loosened up, ready to lift off, and here is the Whipple one. Not sure how much better the Whipple one is. They look so close to identical. You know, as far as width, there's not much you can change. It's pretty big either way for on a blower. So I'll get that one there pulled off, put the lid back on, and ship it out. Kind of see what it looks like underneath. They got a big bypass valve on this thing. That's big. everything else, kind of what I expected. Really curious how it's gonna look once Joker gets everything ported. I don't know if they port any of the runners or just the blower, what all they do, but we'll definitely take a look at it when we get it back. All wrapped in double bubble. This on each side of it. Layer on the bottom, a couple layers actually on the bottom. That to help it from sliding back and forth. It should not be going anywhere. The blower just got back from Joker's, as you can tell. And you can see they ported it. You can see how big this is. It's actually pretty thin between there. Looks like they take out a lot when they port it. The only little thing I don't really like is I noticed right here, and I don't really know what happened. I think this was a core they sent back. It's got, something got welded up right there. I don't know if something, it looks like it may have cracked a little bit at one point or something. And they ended up welding it up a little bit. It's not completely flat going across there, so I'm going to have to file that down just a little bit to get that flat. But outside of that, everything looks great. And again, just not really sure exactly what happened there. This car is also getting the Griptech Pulley. So in order to swap pulleys on the GT500, you have to have the Pulley Removal tool, so you don't damage any of this when you put it in a vise. Basically what it does, you pull this little poly part off, just like that. And this here slides right over it, and the pegs line up. Then you would turn it over, lock that in the vise, and the Pulley Removal tool comes with a special socket or Allen that goes right into there, and then you loosen it. The Whipple intercooler has been installed. It basically looks identical to the factory one. Not sure how much better it is or anything, but now we're just ready to put the lid on. Another little thing I ran into was, you can see the factory tensioner here, and you got the Whipple one over here. What I ran into is if on the factory bolt, which apparently needs to be reused because they don't send another one with, you can see how far it sticks out there. You know, it's got a lot of thread. And take this bolt out and put it through the Whipple one, you'll notice you hardly have any thread. So I'm going to have to go get me a longer bolt in order to hold that on, because I just don't want that little bit of thread in holding it compared to that. Next, I got the bolt out here, replacing the thermostat. Pull it off and it should pull right out of here. You want to make sure to put the other one in it with that little vent hole turned at the 12 o'clock position or in towards the engine. You can see it right there. You can see the pulleys on and the new belt, the new Whipple tensioner down there. And you notice there's not a lot of tension on it. Well, the reason for that is he actually bought the Whipple tensioner and he ordered the belt based on the pulley size with a stock tensioner. And the belt is actually too long and it's too loose. So if you have a Whipple tensioner, it does not take the same belt as the factory tensioner. Another thing, now that I have the bigger throttle body, this boot here is supposed to fit onto the throttle body. It's got this little adapter here. If you pull this out, this is obviously way too big. You can see that, it's way too big. And they want me to slide this part over that throttle body, which over a ½ inch of difference. And you see how thick this is. It's really hard to stretch. So not impressed at all with that. I've tried messing with it, tried stretching it, pulling, pushing, everything, and have not got it on there yet. I think I can get it on there if I heat it up enough, but somebody needs to make something to actually do this right, because this is not designed to fit that throttle body at all. You can see, got the shields all on, exhaust and everything's finished up all the way back. So it's time to lower it down and get the base tune loaded up and start it up. I got everything finished up and installed. You can see blower's on, everything else put back together. You intake. Managed to get that intake back on there by heating up that center insert, taking it out, heating it up, putting it on. Then I managed to get this over top of it. So I've got my base tune loaded now, and then later today we're going to be taking it to the dyno and see what it makes. I've got the base tune all loaded up, so got my exhaust mode. I think I've got it on track. Okay, there's quiet, normal, and there's one I like. Not gonna do any clutch dumps with it. I know if you pull both paddle shifters in or some combination, you can do clutch dumps with it. I prefer not to try that out, but I'm gonna go basically pull me a data log and see how it checks out. We'll see how it runs. A lot of different cars as far as you know, GTR, the Shelby GT350s, and I've liked a lot of them, but I can't say I've liked any quite as much as this one. I'm definitely gonna miss this one going back. I've driven maybe 13-14 miles on data log and getting it dialed in, and it handles insanely good. And most people would think, well, it's just, you know, basically like a Mustang GT, just beefed up a little bit, but it's not, and it doesn't even feel like an S550 or a normal GT S550. It's got the handling of the GT350, but it's also got a lot of low-end power, and also up top, dual clutch transmission. Big fan of it as well. For sure, once we get full tuning support for it, right now we're really limited on what we can do with the TCM. So kind of waiting for the HP Tuners engineers to get that unlocked so we can dig into that. But for now, let's take it for a couple rips and see how it runs. First one, we're gonna try about a 40 roll, see what it does. That felt great. The shifting feels so different on this thing being a dual clutch, and it's like they're not like hard like a lot of people think on the 10 speeds how we tune them. You know, the shift pressures are up and they bump in on each one. These don't really bump in, but they still shift fast, and what you hear is mostly all spark cut on the transition. I'm on my way to the dyno now, so I got about another 10-15 minutes before I get there, and we'll see what it puts down. Here you can see the first dyno pull up top, kind of carried up and kind of flattened out. Looks like it made 781. So we're gonna do another pull, bump the timing on up and see what we can make. Here's the second pull, made 803 horsepower at 596 on the torque. So we're gonna do another pull and make a few more adjustments and see what we can get to. Here you can see the third pull. Definitely carried power up a little better up top. Made where's the power? There it is. 818 horsepower and have 597 on the torque. Got one more pull left, and this will be the final pull in the next one. I'm expecting around 825 to 830, and these are SAE numbers. So let's go ahead and take a look at the standard numbers. Here you can see it converted to standard, which would be 834 and 819. And made some cam timing changes all the way there at the top there before it was kind of coming down, and make some changes up top to keep that power carrying way up in the RPMs a little better. So we made one more pull, it made 812, and picked up some torque, made 606 on the torque, but ran into a little bit of knock up top. Again, this is on 93 pump gas, so it's basically just pushing the limits of the 93. You could always pull it down, go E85, which I think is his plan down the road, which is why we have the 1050Xs. But made a great looking dynograph, new cam timing's working great, so we're gonna settle with that. In the data log, I was seeing around 120 to 125 on the intake air temps, even with the new Whipple intercooler. So on the street, probably make a little more power than that, just because the timing would come on up and wouldn't run into detonation as soon. But from the dyno, on kind of a hot day, it's not a bad number at all. I'm on my way back from the dyno now, so this is the last day you'll be seeing this car, and I'll miss it. I've loved driving it. It's been fun to tune, as far as modding as well, blower and everything. It's always fun to be able to look at the, Ford's newest lineup, see how they did everything, and I'm impressed with it. And of course, these are all CV density. They're a little different to tune, so you probably won't find a lot of tuners that'll be tuning these, just because of the speed density factor. There's a lot of people that don't understand how that works on these cars. So, but for now, that'll be the end of this video. Make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and we will see you next time.